This week on This Broker Life, we've got Kim from Geraci LLP. We're going to talk to Kevin a little bit about the Innovate conference, his Lender Lounge podcast, private and hard money lending, some things going on that are kind of weird in California. Plus, we're going to take a look at what his favorite food is at conferences. You can't go wrong there. Get ready. Let's go.
Better listen up. We about to make it happen. So hot, we burn it up. We just can't get enough. Get down now, have some fun. Cause we about to make it. We about to make it happen.
All right, welcome to the very first episode of This Broker Life. We're really, really excited to have our first guest, Kim from Geraci LLP, here today. Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It is a crazy time in the private lending industry right now, but we're surviving and living the dream over here. Very busy, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think the whole industry is kind of a little crazy right now, seeing some of the rates on the prime side of things going up, and then you guys are more on the private side. So, for anybody who's watching right now, what This Broker Life really is, and I know we were talking about this before we put it on the air, but what this whole podcast is about is kind of real conversations about the industry.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that the whole industry knows who you guys are, who you are personally. So, Kevin, if you want to maybe give us a little bit of an intro to yourself, as well as Geraci as well.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having us on. I mean, we love doing this kind of stuff, and we're really happy to be working with you guys. Geraci is kind of a unique firm. We're, kind of the tagline is we're the nation, we're the U.S.'s largest law firm exclusively focused in private lending. And when we say private lending, what that means is the focus of it is the non-bank, non-institutional, non-agency mortgage lender for residential or commercial. And right now, residential real estate is kind of all the rage and all the talk, and all the stress point right now. But it is we're really focused on that. And I lead the firm's corporate securities practice. So my area of expertise is fund formation and syndications, basically raising money in the U.S. And we work with private lenders across the country, real estate developers across the country to build those platforms for them. We also have a very robust banking and finance team, and that's kind of self-explanatory, but they're really focused on producing high quality closing documents for private lenders across the U.S. And with the institutionalization of the space, they become widely adopted and accepted by all the institutions that aggregate loans in the industry. And then also they have a foreclosure team for California and then certain West Coast states. And then we've got a litigation and bankruptcy team, pretty self-explanatory there. A lot of creditors' rights, a lot of title claims, that kind of stuff here in California. Not really a national practice on that front, but definitely very robust. And so, yeah, the firm was kind of created back in 2007 to serve the private lending industry at large, right? So, we've got all types of service on corporate and securities, pretty self-explanatory there. We do a lot of formation work. We do a lot of governance work. But when the business is launched and they need to put the money out on the street and lend, our biggest practice leads that. And then if the loans get in trouble or the borrowers cause some problems, we're there for you as well. And so that's kind of the reason why we created the firm, right? We wanted to be very much a full service organization to the private lending industry, and that allowed us to grow since 2007. Here we are today. So
that's great. And so since 2007, you say, so how long have you been national? You must have started in California,
really became more of on the transactional side. We became a national firm probably starting in 2014. It was kind of like, before that, it was hyper local, super, and things started becoming regional in 14. Lenders in California started saying, well, I want to start making loans in Texas and Arizona and Nevada. And we started building the practice from there. Now, on the security side, I've always been national in the sense that securities law and these funds are always relying on federal. So we've had clients across the country on that front, but not really on the transactional side. So that really started expanding in 14 and then really took off in 16. And ever since then, we've been really a national firm on the transactional side, providing, transactional services in general to private lenders across the U.S. And actually, some clients of ours have come down from Canada and set up shop down here, and we've been helping them with that as well. So
that's really cool. So you guys have just had like epic expansion, and I guess that comes from, obviously the variety of work you're doing that you just described.
Right.
But you've also put yourselves out there as far as an advocate for the industry, an advocate for the private lender, especially, and it also starts with podcasts. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, your Lender Lounge podcast.
Yeah, the podcast was a kind of a random accident, in my opinion. So it started out with, we had, for the uninitiated, Anchor Loans, one of the biggest national, kind of private lenders out there. Their founder and CEO was Steve Pollock, and he was speaking at a conference of ours. And I wanted to sit down with him longer because he had been, he's one of the legends in the space, been doing it for so long. And, he retired last year, but, we wanted to sit down with him and interview him. And we had our videographer there. So, let's do that. Then COVID hit, and I had a lot of time on my hands. I was like, you know what? Let's expand this venture. So I started interviewing some of my clients and friends, and then that became its own thing. And our marketing department got sunk their teeth into it. And now it's really designed to create kind of a look behind the curtain for private lending businesses beyond just what they do, where they land, their LTVs and that kind of stuff. We're really talking about the CEO and how he or she built the business over the years, and the life story behind it, and joking and talking about kind of the lessons they've learned and their views on the industry, which is really informative because everyone has a different perspective, right? And you'll find this as well. Like, everyone has a different perspective on mortgage and on residential real estate and on commercial real estate. And so learning about how they think about it and learning about how that applies to their business was really kind of the focus of the show now. And that now we just aired an interview. I've been interviewing my partner Dennis, but before that, we've interviewed, Beth, founder of CoreVest, and we interviewed, Eric Abramovich over at Rock, and we're getting beyond, the what I'll call kind of retail regional lender, and starting to talk to, institutional lenders and their aggregators and stuff like that. And it's been giving us a bigger picture of the whole market as a whole. And it's also allowed us to spread the message about our actual advocacy. So I have a partner, Nima. He loves, government advocacy and legislative advocacy. And I always joke that he should have been a lobbyist, and if he didn't become a lawyer. But we worked through a lot of our trade associations, affiliations and services. And so we identify legislation that can be a threat, usually at the state level, but sometimes federal, to our industry. And it's never like direct on the nose. Like, it's not like, oh, we're going to prohibit private lending, at a national level. It's usually some kind of tax related issue or some type of licensing related issue at a state level or federal level. And we organize and advocate from a grassroots standpoint. We don't use lobbyists. We don't believe in it. And we use our network, including the podcast and different, content ventures to get the word out. So that's kind of what we've been working on the past few years, and we've been successful. Shout out to the American Association of Private Lenders, the trade association we're a part of, and we serve as a general counsel. We've been partnering with them on, all types of legislative efforts and rulemaking exercises and stuff like that. So this time, right now, the big kind of topic of the day is the California flip tax.
That's a big one right now, isn't it?
Yes, it's really scary, right? We saw kind of a version of this in New York, and it's always a story of like, good intentions, poor execution, and they don't think about the long-term ramifications. So for your listeners, one of the things that they're trying to do here in California is they're trying to create more housing, right? For the largest state and the biggest economy, we have a shortage of housing. And so their logic is, well, if we tax people who sell their homes, then that'll incentivize people to buy more homes. I don't understand the logic behind it. Or it'll incentivize more affordable housing. So the way that the law works, the proposed law is California is proposing a tax. It basically boils down to they want to tax you on your capital gains if you sell your house within 3 years, and the tax is 25%. So it's pretty much it's pretty much an industry killer if you're a wholesaler or a fix and flipper. And so by virtue of our clients making those types of loans, we're getting behind this, and we're joining forces with AAPL, but also the California Association of Realtors and a host of other advocacy and trade groups to fight this bill, because it is going to cause more problems than it solves. And the fascinating part about this is that the intent was to create more affordable housing. So for those of you who are lending or investing in the state of California, I encourage you to go to our website. We have a lot of advocacy documentation there. You can fill one out, put together a letter, and send it to your assemblyman or state senator, and really help us in the fight against this bill, because this is going to essentially kneecap the entire residential real estate investing market here in California. And it's going to disincentivize people from investing in real estate, but also disincentivize homeowners like myself who want to move.
Yeah. You're kind of almost stuck because you don't want to pay that tax, right?
You're stuck. I'm not paying 25% tax. I've only lived in my house for 2 years. I'm not moving, right? So that's kind of the part of it. Like it's so that we are really happy that a lot of the different associations have gotten involved with this. We encourage you guys, for your listeners, to check it out. Go on our website, GeraciLawFirm.com. We've got a bunch of materials there, and I'll send you some information for your listeners as well, as you can put it out there, hopefully, and support our opposition to this bill in California.
Yeah, because you know what? These types of things, if they don't get opposed or they don't get dealt with from organizations like yourselves, they spread to other states, right? Pretty quickly too. Right, everybody starts to pick up. Oh, we can get more tax by doing this. It worked in California, right? And it's not, but it's not working, right? And it's not going to work. Any
state that has an inventory problem, right? And they're going to be like, well, California did it, right? So
exactly. So if you're listening to this or watching this and you don't think it's important to you because you don't live in California, it really is important to you, because people always follow the examples out there, right?
Right.
You know what? It's interesting too. You guys obviously deal primarily with the lender side of things, and we'll talk about your Innovate conference for those lenders shortly. But I just want to get your perspective from the mortgage professional out there that maybe has a misconception about private and hard money lending. Because, you've got the AAPL, you mentioned them, you've got yourselves, you've got your Innovate conference. Like, you all take this very, very seriously. And there's there's some mortgage professionals out there that go, oh, I'm afraid to get into that, or it has a stigma, or it has anything. Mm-hmm. What would be your message to that mortgage professional watching or listening now, saying, like, I mean, even just in describing what you guys do for the industry, why you should deal with the private lending space?
I think it boils down to if for those mortgage professionals that are paying attention, right? This industry serves a need that a lot of conventional mortgage bankers and lenders think, that's just a regular non-QM loan, right? But in reality, this is a separate world, multi-trillion-dollar industry that is widely loved by the institutions and is considered a commercial transaction as opposed to consumer-driven, transaction. And it's very much kind of standardized and institutionalized in its own right and commoditized. And the reason why it exists is primarily an offshoot of a practice that's always existed, rehab and rental and construction, right? And so these things, and when I whenever I meet a conventional banker and we talk about it, they view it in two ways, right? They either view it, number one, oh, that's just a non-QM loan, right? And I tell them, no, hold on. You're looking at it from your lens. Let's look at it from my lens, right? Non-QM to me means consumer. The person you're lending money to still lives in that house. In this world that we're living in, we're dealing with investors. We're dealing with real estate investors. These guys are buying and selling real estate as a business, and they're building real estate and they're selling it, adding to affordable housing, adding to the housing inventory. They're doing this. And because of that, all of the rules that you're used to on the conventional side, on the consumer side, the CFPB rules, Res Patila, all those things don't really apply to us over here because we are typically commercial. That is something that's kind of a lot easier of a conversation to have. They're like, oh, that's amazing. I don't have to deal with, I don't have to deal with ATR. I don't have to deal with, Respatila, all that kind of stuff, but I can still make these loans. And they kind of light goes on. Why haven't I heard about this sooner? I've been doing it the wrong way the entire time. That's an easier conversation to have. And they discover, wow, this is very much an institutionalized space. There is a robust secondary market. There is a robust banking solution for this, for lender finance and all that fun stuff. The challenging part for us is overcoming the stigma when it comes to quote unquote hard money. And a lot of people have this strange conception that hard money is kind of like a 4-letter word. Hard money really means only one thing and one thing only. It's a faster funding solution that's asset based, right? Asset based lending has been around for millennia, right? We're looking at the asset. That's it, right?
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that for a commercial transaction. Banks do it all the time, right? When you're dealing with a commercial transaction, looking at the value of the asset and the value in which it will sell is a core, I guess, tenet of the mortgage world. We've forgotten a lot of that because of Dodd-Frank and a lot of the regulations that have come in since 2012, but it's always been there. And for some strange reason has a bad connotation because there's a lot of what I would call there was a lot of cowboy lending back in 2008 to 2012. Well, there was a lot of cowboy lending in general from 2008 to 2012.
That's very true. I remember it well.
Yeah, and so like it takes time for things to kind of get standardized and improve. And this is a relatively young industry because we all know mortgage rules didn't really exist until 2008, 2012 era. And so much like we saw on the conventional side, there's a lot of kind of tomfoolery going on over there as well. But because it's so highly regulated and because the government is sponsoring these loans, they think, it's okay. This is a very much widely institutionalized space. These loans are being securitized. These loans are being, taken for private and public securitization, rated, unrated, all types of asset classes. So from that perspective, it is a very much well-respected industry from the financial institutions. From a borrower's perspective, it solves for a lot of the problems that come up in non-QM lending and traditional banking and bank finance because it's a lot faster. It goes to the asset. And frankly, these lenders are all about moving the ball forward quickly. And so that solves the challenge there. And so if you remove that, if you just take the judgment hat off real quick and look at the industry as a whole, it's a great opportunity. And from that perspective, we've had so many conventional lenders jump into the space, especially now that, the term rental loans have really taken off. Every major conventional shop that we know is doing it in some way or another, and they're starting to kind of creep into our way of doing things in our industry. And so we think it's just growing even more nowadays because of that asset class or that product. So
do you think then that the industry needs to do a better job of getting information out about this area? Like,
Agreed.
do you think? Yeah, and so like the sort of like the big conferences and things like that, the AIM fuses and stuff like that.
I think the conference circuit is very much a very, very important thing. I think the importance of trade associations and government advocacy is also an important thing. And so we have our own conferences here at Geraci, and we do it as more of we want to create more networking opportunities and means for our industry to get together on a national scale and have national conversations, but also trade associations that have a mission to advocate on behalf of the industry at large. And so that's why we're so happy and passionate about AAPL, the American Association of Private Lenders, because Eddie Wilson over there, he's able to kind of get meetings with Congress people and explain to them, this is the industry that we represent, and it is not what you think it is. And you'd be surprised how many congressional people, congressmen, senators, and their staff don't know that this industry exists. It's several $1 trillion in value, but they just all think of one giant mortgage industry. Mm-hmm. So explain to them that no, hold on. This is a subset of the mortgage industry that's really designed for short-term lending and creating more houses to be sold to the public, right? The goal for all of these builders and these real estate investors is not to hold the asset, but sell it, right? Well, lately now they're renting, but produce rentals or sell it, which means more inventory for people to live in, right? And so I think that's been the story that's been extended, and they're trying to, that makes a lot of sense. You're actually helping, right? You're not you're not just another mortgage lender. You're providing, you're helping us solve for the inventory problem. That those meetings have been really, really interesting to see, kind of the government's perspective on this. But yeah, I mean, we don't, the one benefit of the term loan product, the term rental loan product, has been it's kind of been the bridge and opened up the larger industry at large. And so when I go to a consumer or a mortgage banking conference and I talk to them, I don't have to explain it anymore. I just tell them, yeah, we deal with the investor side of things. And they, oh yeah, we do that too. Yeah. And then we start talking, and that's been interesting lately. We've been seeing a lot more involvement from that side of things and allow the industry to grow. So.
Yeah, and I know from our perspective at BHB TV and everything we're doing, education is our key. I mean, that is, lifelong learning is so important, especially for your career, and learning all the different aspects and different angles that you have in the industry is huge. And we love conferences. We're coming to Innovate.
Oh, yeah. So our conferences are pretty cool. I mean, if for those of your listeners that want to check out more information, go to GeraciCon.com. So GERACICON.com. And we have two conferences. Then the upcoming one in April is our Innovate conference. It's being held in Newport Beach, and is at the Balboa Bay Club. And it's a really great time because it's very much a time for a lot of us to get together and have a national conversation. It is in the West Coast. Can't complain about being in Newport Beach in April. But it's also a really good time to talk about industry trends and things where things are headed, right? Not just the market conditions, but also some of the panels that we have are really, really informative when it comes to, one of the big trends in both sectors of the residential mortgage industry is consolidation and M&A. And so we're going to have a panel on that, rental loans and the volatility there. And so we're going to talk about that. But we also have lenders and brokers and builders of all shapes and sizes come through. And so, for a long time, we've had a lot of discussions about, for example, cannabis lending. And also we've had discussions on cryptocurrency. And so this is the venue for that. We really encourage folks, whether you're a lender or not, to check us out, because if you're a builder or you're a real estate investor, you're going to do real well there, because it's a room full of mortgage lenders, right? Exactly. And then if you're a lender and you're interested about getting into the space and learning more about private lending, this is the best place to do it, because there are so many different types of professionals, but also a lot of solutions to get your business stood up, right? Because a lot of the vendors to the space come to these events. And then, we have another show every summertime, usually in August, and that's called Captivate. And then we've just finally booked the venue. So it's going to be at the Encore this year in Las Vegas. And we just booked the dates, so check the website for that. And this is more of a capital-driven show. And so we have kind of two big themes going on here. We have all the mortgage aggregators come out, and they can come out and pitch their products and provide capital solutions to the lenders out there. But we also invite a lot of high net worth investors, registered investment advisors, MBDs, all types of capital providers that way, right? On the capital side, from that perspective. So for clients who are raising money, they've set up a fund, it's a great opportunity to network in that regard. And it's really focused on mortgage, but real estate's also very much welcome. And so that's a really great industry event for us. We consider that our flagship event. It's a large event. And we also have a good time because it's the mortgage industry, right? So we like to have a good time. And so this year is going to be, for the first time, we're going to the Encore. So it's going to be even better than last year. So I really encourage everyone to check that out too.
That sounds awesome. And I know we're at Innovate and Captivate. Sounds amazing too. And what would be your advice then for somebody who's attending either one or both to take advantage of it best? Like, how do I get the most benefit out of that conference?
So the first thing you should do is reach out to, if you've never been to one of the shows, is reach out to, our marketing team and tell them, like, hey, I've never been to a show of yours. I really would like, your advice on how to navigate this event. The first thing they're going to tell you is make sure you get Umbrella. We have an app called Umbrella, and we use it to network. It's great because it's kind of like a dating app. You can set up your profile and it'll match you, and you can set up meetings through it, and it'll sync with your calendar. It allows you to be super productive. The next thing I would tell people to think about is, what is your objective for this conference? If you're a new market entry, right, and you're like, well, I'm thinking about starting to do this. I've been doing conventional mortgage banking for a long time. I'm getting an influx of, rental loan requests, fix and flip requests, construction loan requests. I want to get started. In that situation, I tell them first things first, before you even come to the event, you sign up for the event. Before you even come, set up a consult with one of our attorneys, because it's also a good time to start thinking about getting the foundation set up. Then tell us you're going to be at the event. We'll meet you there, and we'll also get you in front of all the right vendors that do things that we can't provide. For example, if you're going to get set up, while I can help you get licensed and get the entity set up, get any capital structure set up, you're going to want to talk to, capital providers. You're going to want to talk to loan servicers. You're going to want to talk to CPA firms that specialize in this industry and can help you. So those types of things are also really helpful. And then the last thing is, if you're coming and you've never been before, come with an open mind, because the nice part about our space is we're very welcoming. And there's all types of different business people there, right? You're going to meet all types. Unlike the conventional mortgage banking world, where there's kind of one business model, right? You really only have one business model. It's either white label correspondence, and that's it, right? In our world, the business models are diverse, right? You can have different strategies, and you can learn a lot by simply just networking with your colleagues there and asking them questions like, how'd you do this, right? A lot of them were guests on my podcast, and so you can see those guests and go find them and ask for meetings and sit down with them. And I think a lot of times they'd be willing to provide that mentorship. All you have to do is ask, And so that's one thing that I've seen a lot of our new attendees do, and they've gained a lot of knowledge that way. And they built their own business and went along to become quite the impressive concern. So.
Love it. And I'm going to just pull it up here. I've got my Brella app already working.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully didn't give away anybody's name.
No, yeah. And it's great because everyone has to sign up for it. It's the best thing ever, because you can specify what you want to talk about too, like what you're looking for and what you want to network on.
Absolutely.
And so that allows for a lot more efficiency in your meetings. And but it also gives you access to see who's coming, so.
Yeah, it's a really neat. It's very, very cool. I think there's a ton of ways to take advantage of the conference, more so than we've ever had before in conferences. Typically you sit there and you just listen to speakers, and you might do some networking on the break. So you might do it in the evening or something like that, and hope you get maybe a lead or two out of it. Right. But now it's a combination of kind of all of that, right? It's trade showy, but it's also sit down meetings. It's meeting with the right people and getting yourself set up. Way, way more beneficial than conferences of old. And this has been awesome, Kevin. This has been an incredible interview, and you guys do a ton of work. I mean, I've learned, even though we partnered with you guys fairly recently and learned a lot about you, I've already learned 10 times more than I already knew. But I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is your biggest pet peeve in the industry right now? Well, today's industry, what bugs Kevin Kim?
I think it's if you're not it's people who are a little bit people who are overly bullish right now. Like, it drives me a little bit. Writing's been on there are professionals out there that just consistently are always just very, very, very excessively bullish. And I'm just like, guys, come on. I mean, when rates come up 200 basis points in a matter of a quarter, we got to have a conversation about being more conservative. That's probably number one, because almost all of the industry is relatively cautious because they're all scarred from 2008.
Right.
They have learned their lesson and they have long memories. I just, people who are just overly bullish, it's like, having some professional caution or professional skepticism is probably a good idea at this point in time. And the other thing that drives me a little bit nuts is I guess it's kind of, I mentioned it earlier, kind of the cowboy lender mentality. We saw a lot of that, in 2008 to 2012. And this industry has grown up a lot, and there's so many resources, not just ours, but others out there to really, really, build your business and do it without garnering too much unwanted attention from the government, if you could say, right? And so it drives me a little bit nuts because, before it was hard. It was very hard to navigate this industry because it was very much a new industry and the information was not as relatively available. Today, it's everywhere. You can get it from your friends, you can get it from your colleagues, you can get it from your counterparties. And so from that standpoint, I'm not even telling people to be fully compliant. I'm saying have that curious mindset and ask questions and not just assume that it'll be okay. the whole shoot first and ask for forgiveness later. And I love our clients for having that entrepreneurial mindset. And so it's kind of a, guys, it takes a few minutes just to talk to one of us and or talk to somebody out there and make sure you're doing it right. But that has really come a long way. And I guess, one of the biggest ones, I guess the last one is probably neckties.
I wonder if those days are gone after the
I really hope so. Neckties especially at conferences and in general. I haven't worn a necktie since the Obama administration, and I don't plan to.
I love it. That's a good one. Those are good, 3 good ones. And what about conference food? You know what? We got to talk about conference food for a second.
Conference food. Yeah,
conference food is real. I mean, this is a thing that you won't have at home. What's your favorite? What have you got? What do you? Well, what's your favorite conference food?
The industry conferences are almost always in Vegas, right? And so, like I would say, well, lately they've been in Scottsdale a lot more too, but Vegas is kind of home for conferences, right? And so, some of the best food in the country, but it's almost like an after hours thing. We almost always get at a conference. It's secret pizza at the Cosmo.
That's right.
Like, whenever I'm in Vegas, like, dude, I gotta have that pizza, man. Because like late at night after cocktail hour, you need some real food, not some hors d'oeuvres. Like that's right. It's the spot.
You can go for an extra long walk in the morning, right?
Yeah. The lines are pretty long, but they're open late and they serve beer. So, what's not to like? And then when it comes to, because a lot of our industry events are moving to Scottsdale. Right, Scottsdale become like the new space new place to do an event. I've been spending a lot of time there, and we just got back from Scottsdale a few weeks ago. I had this amazing event we co-sponsored out there at this restaurant called Fat Ox. It's this kind of like small place, Italian place. It was pretty cool. Like it's a very fun restaurant, but like you don't get that kind of vibe at a Vegas conference because like it's big hotels and so. That was really fun. The worst is when you get to a conference and they give you like they don't really have like any kind of meal option.
It's just those little triangle sandwiches with the
sometimes right, and then you're like, oh man, I should have planned dinner. But
extra bleached white bread. Yeah.
Lately though, the events are held in cities where you can do a nice event, that kind of stuff. So that's been nice for us. Yeah,
that's awesome. There you go. Kevin Kim's your new Yelp. You don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to worry about.
Yeah, honestly, whenever I go to a new city for a conference, I always look at like where can I go have a good meal because we're traveling across the country. Might as well have a good dinner.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for this, and I'll give you the final word on the floor here. Is there anything else we need to know, or anything
no? I mean, I appreciate giving us the opportunity to join you on the podcast. But just for those of you out there who haven't heard of us and you're interested in the mortgage space, check us out, GeraciLawFirm.com. It's the best place to learn about us. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been This Broker Life, the very first episode for Kevin Kim. I'm Chris Baker. Thanks for watching, and watch again next week.